guns, freedoms, you bot-trashing arsonists. I'm coming at you with another historical deep dive that is going to blow your brains right off the back of your heads like a conveniently placed Illuminate sniper on the high ground. And let's hope that those monkey fluffers from the First Galactic War never, ever come back. They were everywhere. It was to the point that if you were operating in Illuminate space in GW1 and you held still for more than a few seconds literally anywhere, you were probably going to die rather abruptly of a massive, gaping plasma car-rise head wound. But that is off topic. Today, I would like to explore the actual historical origins and the true meaning of Christmas. The real history, not the borscht sold in Hallmark movies or peddled by white Christian nationalists, and you know exactly how I feel about them. It all began with the winter solstice, that being the shortest day of the year. I won't bore you with the celestial mechanics, but we all know that days in summer get longer just as they get shorter in winter. The shortest day of the year is December 21st or 22nd sometimes, which is the week that Christmas is celebrated. Really, I think that's about the halfway point of winter, so, yeah, as of Christmas, we're about halfway through. This is not a new practice. People have been celebrating the winter solstice ever since humanity first figured out how seasons worked about 10,000 years ago during the Neolithic Age. They observed the practices of large communal fires, feasting, symbols of evergreen trees, which they saw in defiance of the winter's cold, and prayers for the sun's returns from humanity's first gods. That's it. That's the story. That's the origin. Everybody else's traditions come after this one. But then, how do we get all that other stuff? Where did the jolly, fat, bearded guy with a team of flying magical reindeer come from? Oh, wow. Are you in for a story? What we know today is Santa is actually based upon Odin, who took flight in the Wild Hunt on his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir, who is actually his grandson. Now, hold on. How is Odin, an Aesir of Asgard, related to an 8-legged horse? The story is long and would probably get me banned from SuperTube if I told it in the uncensored version, so you're just gonna have to look into that yourself. For now, you're just gonna have to settle for Loki did it. Loki always did it. But as you can see here, the cultural inspirations for Santa are openly on display. So, what exactly is the Wild Hunt? Imagine a storm rolling across a frozen winter hellscape, not unlike the one that I currently reside in and cherish on a daily basis. Howling winds, snapping branches, snow blasting you in your face, and in that storm, you hear a cavalry charge. You see shapes, apparitions, ghosts. The dead have risen in a spectral procession that is tearing the very sky apart, all lit by the gods themselves with Odin at the head. Now, as metal as that all sounds, it is completely unlike what Santa does. You do not want to get caught up by Odin while he's amped up for the Wild Hunt. If you get caught outdoors during said Wild Hunt, you're probably going to end up cursed, get driven mad, or simply disappear without a trace. What Odin is doing is that, well, he's not just the king of all gods in Norse myth. He is also the Grim Reaper, and he's gathering up all the souls on Midgard that the Valkyries missed during the year, Midgard being the realm of mortals. Our world. For clarity's sake, the Valkyries gather up the souls of the Valorists slain in battle pretty much on the spot. Everybody else has to wait until the end of the year, where Odin gathers them up during the Wild Hunt. Why? Well, because Odin is seeking the dead for their wisdom because, as king of all gods, he values knowledge beyond all else, having given up his eye in exchange for the wisdom required to be king. That is also why the spirits of the ancestral dead are said to rise during Yule, and dear sweet Liberty, I hope that's not true. I have some serious issues with my father. The Wild Hunt is but one of many traditions, a piece of a much larger festive tapestry associated with Yule. The holiday was a midwinter festival for the Germanic and Norse world, lasting 12 nights, which is the true origin of the song 12 Days of Christmas. Yule was a religious event, a social reset, a grand feast, and a team deathmatch against the gods themselves all at once. Honestly, once you start looking looking into Yule, you'll see that Christmas actually has precious little in terms of actual originality going for it, but that is okay, that is fine, that is natural. Cultural diffusion is a natural part of human society. The customs and traditions of one people flow into another. We like showing each other our cool stuff. One such familiar piece of iconography is the Yule log. This isn't the cutesy, candle-sized thing that appears on Christmas cards. Yule logs were massive, sometimes whole tree trunks that burned for days in defiance of the cold and dark of winter. Some carved runes on the log before burning it as a wish of protection from the gods, and they save a piece of it to light the Yule log next year. Honestly, I just used an orbital napalm barrage to get my point across, but I can understand why this was necessary. There, of course, were also the evergreens. Trees that were seen as symbols of life in a dying world, resilient, protective, immortal. Metaphors for endurance through hardship. So people hacked them down, hauled them inside, and decorated them with various nuts, coins, charms, and other such knickknackeries as wishes for fertility, wealth, happiness, and a successful harvest next year. This was also seen as a means for the native faith folk to come and participate in the festivities of Yule, but as my good friend Alesko once advised, don't mess with the Fae. No, seriously, we do not have the ordinance to repel that. This formed into the tradition of the Christmas tree, which annoying cats climb into every year and dogs crash into. Also, friendly reminder, if you're one of those people who prefers to code out and hacked out an actual evergreen, water your trees so that the fire department doesn't have to. Like it or not, Odin is still out there doing his job and collecting wayward souls. Let's not add to his naughty list, shall we? This lastly brings us to the Yule feast. While seen as a time of togetherness, meal sharing, and a time to honor one's gods and ancestors, there was this underlying current of anxiety to the feast. Much like my life, which is, I'm really hoping those antidepressants kick in soon. Anyway, many feared that livestock wouldn't survive the winter and that starvation was imminent. So they're feasting now before the scarcity killed them all. I can get behind that. If we're all gonna die anyway, might as well die with one last full belly, right? This gradually turned into Christmas dinner, which invoked anxiety of a different variety. Thanksgiving, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, with racist Uncle Jerry that doesn't think that trans people deserve rights. No one likes Uncle Jerry. No one. Now, this all took place in the dark days of 500 BCE, when the nights were cold, dark, and full of terrors. This was so long ago that Scandinavians hadn't even considered doing any Viking yet. No longships, no Norse kingdoms. In fact, most Norse myth wasn't even codified yet as we know it, because while the Poetic Edda was written, most people still couldn't read. So, let's pivot from that and look at a much larger exploitative colonial regime. The Roman Empire. Their winter solstice holiday was known as Saturnalia, and it is just pure chaos and madness. I love it. It is a festival devoted to Saturn, god of agriculture, liberation, and civilization itself, beginning on December 17th and expanding to last the entire week, running headlong into New Year's celebrations. If you're out there on New Year's Day or Eve, probably both, getting utterly trashed, you are in Rome doing as the Romans do. And really, if you want to celebrate Saturnalia instead of Christmas because Christians are a pushy bunch, but have a physiological desire, no, a need to make everything about them, and they haven't had a proper poop since the time of Jesus himself, no one is stopping you. You wouldn't even need to change that much. So, what goes on during Saturnalia? Well, for one thing, slaves and masters changed places, and slaves could insult their owners without consequence of any variety. If you wanted to call your boss a fat, obnoxious, ethically bereft piece of trash that smelled like the back end of a warthog after it crashed through a dumpster fire, that is not a fireable offense. That's just Saturnalia, baby! I feel like I just converted some folks to a new religion, which is actually an old one. Yes, Electo, you can insult your bosses to their faces by invoking this holiday, and if they pull you into another forced HR meeting, you can just fight religious freedom. Hey, you know what? Christians get away with this kind of garbage on the daily by doing far worse stuff. They can let us have this. This is all derived from the Roman belief that if you wanted society to function, it must occasionally unmake itself, take itself apart, clean itself up, and then put itself back together. This also served as the inspiration for the Feast of Fools in medieval times, seen as in one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Oh, Tony J., how I miss you, sir. The fun doesn't stop there. Saturnalia involved a huge amount of feasting and drinking. Between the wine, the food, and the chaos, this is like taking a chainsaw into a bug-filled jungle. Absolutely no part of this most recent festival is going to be used responsibly, and we are here for all of it. If Yule was a holiday invoking survival during winter, Saturnalia was one invoking abundance, madness, and defiance of the cold and harsh coming doom. It was truly a time of excess, but also one of gratitude and the time to share what you had. Which is why I am going down to the corner store later for chocolate and energy drinks. 'Tis the season, my friends. This was also a time where the first Christmas guest were exchanged, which flows directly into tradition. It wasn't about wealth or capitalism, but about connection. A reminder that even if the weather sucked and it was dark at 4 p.m., people were not alone in dealing with that. It sucked for everybody, universally. But let's jump back to that chaos thing for just a moment. During Saturnalia, gambling was not merely legal, it was expected of you. A symbolic invitation to embrace uncertainty and play dice with the gods, quite literally, during the darkest time of the year. Alright, natural 20, let's fluff and go. Every household elected what was called a Saturnalicious princeps, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly because I just designated my husband that. This is a thick king that gave ridiculous, outrageous orders that everyone had to obey. Orders like random festivities, songs, dancing, telling jokes, and so on. Heck, for those of you in my audience who practice such a thing, do what I did and elect your dominant as princeps. Trust me, you will not regret that. You know who you are. This kind of Lord of Misrule thing gave birth to office parties and Christmas pranks. Basically, let the world be joyful. Even if it makes absolutely no sense. No, especially if it makes no sense. Lastly, Romans decorated their homes with candles, believing that enough light could push the darkness back for another year after the solstice passed. Christmas lights. Saturnalia wasn't just a party. It was the promise of potential, that even during the literal darkest of days, human beings could still choose to be kind, equal, and free. Our current tyranny and oppressions all over the globe, it only exists because we, the common people, choose to tolerate that. Kinda makes you think, doesn't it? It is of no coincidence that the first recorded Christmas took place in 336 CE in Rome. The practicing Christians remixed the holiday and added to it as time went on, grabbing some pagan practices from the cold north during the Christianization of the Viking lands, and, well, here we are. With this odd little mishmash of Saturnalia, Yule, and changing Odin collecting the souls of the dead to Santa Claus giving out presents for good children. Several thousand years of cultural mosaic manifesting in unchecked capitalism, chaotic drunkenness, and more Christmas movies than you could shake a thermite grenade out. Which my husband and I will be watching. Reminds me I need to pick up hot cocoa mix and marshmallows from the store next time. But what of Santa himself? Surely there's some secret of his origins. Well, yes, but it's the same cultural medley that is present in every other part of this culture. As we discussed, his original inspiration was Odin, king of all gods, but the legend everyone is familiar with is Saint Nicholas of Myra, or Myra. He was a 4th century Christian bishop famed for his secret gift-giving, leaving coins and small presents in shoes, and a staunch protector of children. The name was inspired by Dutch folklore, with Sinterklaas, a mythical mythological figure who wore a bishop's robes of red and white, rode a white horse across rooftops, left gifts on December the 5th, and had a team of elvish helpers. But given how cultural diffusion works, Fate might actually be talking about the same historical figure, which is St. Nicholas. Santa Claus is simply the American mispronunciation of Sinterklaas, because my culture only speaks two languages, English and bad English. Verdammt Nachtmahl. Some traditions from the Sami people were also evoked from their shamans, who wore red and white outfits, the color of the native Amanita mushroom, and entered homes through chimneys and smoke holes to deliver healing bundles of herbs. Reindeer were also fed on these same mushrooms and, yeah, they did fly, but only in hallucinations. Basically, pack your bags because you're going on a bad trip, man. This all comes together during my favorite time period of 1800 with Clement C. Moore's poem, A Vision from St. Nicholas, also known as Towards the Night Before Christmas, codifying several thousand years of lore, storytelling, and myth into the modern Santa Claus. And in 1931, Hadan Sundblom, hired by Coca-Cola, defined Santa's modern look, which we still use to this very day. Santa Claus is not a man. He's not a god or a spirit. He is a mosaic of humanity. From Norse, Roman, Dutch, Christian, pagan, Siberian shaman, and maybe a little dash of imagination for spice, he is the final fusion of everything that winter meant to humanity. Fear, generosity, magic, judgment, and hope. So, if you're one of those people who just doesn't like this time of year because of some personal tragedy, seasonal affective disorder, or the fact that you again have to deal with racist Uncle Jerry, take heart, my friend. You don't need to adhere to any one culture or tradition. Make your own. This time of year is simply for being happy when it's cold and crappy outside. That's it. That's the whole meaning of Christmas. And I can't think of anything more human than Christmas. So with all of that being said, I'm gonna leave you now with this extra footage that I took of me trying my very soul out to complete the new Rapid Platinum Acquisition mission. I don't succeed, but I've still had fun and I kill bots really, really good. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Hanukkah, or Saturnalia, Kwanzaa, Festivus, or whatever it is that you celebrate. I don't think that any one culture can lay claim to this time of year, regardless of how hard certain angry minivan driving church moms try, but really, I think that's a feature, not a bug. This is how things ought to be. We are all human, and there is way more that unites us than divides us. Special thanks to Melman, who was right there with me in the dive trying to get this done, and he got the crap checked out of him the same way that I did. Honestly, these new missions are so hard that the entire team needs to lock in or else you're just gonna get smeared. I might try this again with some of the old guard from my community. Electo, Nod, grab Melman again, something like that. We'll get this figured out.